Hey kids, it's Mr. Fly here, hope you're well, and welcome back to Bike News, the regular look back at what's been going on in the world of motorcycling here in the UK, this time for the month of November 2024. So welcome back to the channel, folks, and thank you for tuning in once again to Bike News. Now, because I'm covering November, I've got absolutely masses to go through. I've got actually 5 papers here, loads of stories. It's going to be a busy one, so grab yourself a brew, settle back, and let's crack on with it. Right, first story in the first paper. Slimming World. Revised Yamaha MT-07 sheds weight despite tech overhaul but retains the same CP2 engine. So it says here, for 2025, the MT-07 enters its 4th generation with a new chassis, updated looks, electronics, and riding position, and a weight reduction. Well, that all sounds good, doesn't it? I have to say, I do like what they've done on the looks of this. It looks much more MT-09-y now, doesn't it? So it says here, the engine comes paired with ride-by-wire throttle for the first time, with Yamaha also using an acoustic amplification system. This is like they've got on the MT-09, which just funnels some of the airbox noise at you as the rider. So it's not antisocial for people standing on the roadside, but it makes for a lot more fun for you. It sounds a bit puerile, but we love that sort of thing, don't we? Anyway, it says here, weight now sits at a claimed 183 kilograms, making it a kilogram lighter than the old bike. And I'm not sure we're going to notice a kilogram necessarily, but any lightening is good, isn't it? The new bodywork, which now mimics that of the MT-09, cuts off another 600 grams. We're definitely not going to notice that. Yamaha say a new, more engaging riding position for 2025 is sportier than that of the outgoing model. Bikes are expected in the first quarter of 2025. Prices are yet to be confirmed, but we would expect a modest increase over the current model, which is £7,516. So this looks great, doesn't it? We are living, I've said this many times before, but we're living in a golden age of motorcycle buying at the moment. There are some cracking bikes out there, and it's a buyer's market. All right, moving on. Second story, Tracer 9s get more refined. Now, the Tracer 9 is a bike that I really like. Looks are a little bit challenging, perhaps. I haven't ridden this latest version. This won't be out until next year. But I rode the last version relatively recently, and I absolutely loved the way it rode. But I found the looks a little bit challenging. I think I could live with it. This new one, though, goes even more wacky. The front end is looking quite strange. I think you either like it or not. Well, I say that, I'm kind of on the fence. I think it might be one of those ones that you could grow to love over time, but it's certainly not an attractive bike to look at straightforward. Anyway, let's see what it says here. Yamaha's triple-cylinder Tracer 9 family get comfort tweaks plus new auto option. A revised 3-cylinder Tracer 9 family sees the addition of the firm's latest semi-automatic Y-AMT transmission system. This is the auto gearbox that I'm not sure anybody was asking for, but anyway, they're rolling it out. The news follows the kit being added to both the MT-09 and MT-07. Not all of the Tracers will be fitted with the system, however, with the family now consisting of the 212 kilogram standard model, a GT, and a fully decked out GT Plus. As before, all models will be powered by Yamaha's 890cc CP3 triple, producing a healthy 117 brake horsepower, now meeting Euro 5, and that is a cracking engine. One of the best engines you can currently buy on a motorcycle, I think. Full suite of lean-sensitive electronics, courtesy of a 6-axis IMU, plus 5 riding modes to choose from. It's got revised switchgear. That probably means it's got that funny indicator button that Yamaha have started to do. Another thing I'm not sure anybody asked for, but there we go. I'm sure you get used to it if you owned it. The engine wedged in a die-cast aluminium Delta Box style chassis. The chassis is paired with an aluminium swing arm and steel subframe. Alongside showing the same frame, all the bikes will benefit from a mobile connectable 7-inch TFT. So yeah, it's looking a good option, this, isn't it? And there are, as I say, a few options. There's the Tracer 9, there's the Tracer 9 GT, there's the Tracer 9 GT Y-AMT, and then there's the Tracer 9 GT Plus, and they all come obviously with different levels of technology, trim, etc. So check out the Yamaha website for full details on that. But yeah, I think the Tracer 9 is a bit of a unsung hero, actually. It's a really nice bike, that. And I look forward to riding that new one. All right, next up. Accessible XS. Now, this is a bike that caused a stir, isn't it? The new BMW R1300GS Adventure. Does it take full-fat Globetrotter bikes to another level? Possibly. I'm sure this is an absolutely cracking bike to ride. I've still yet to see one in the flesh. Unfortunately, like so many other dealers, my local BMW dealer, Barnstormer in Maidenhead, closed down recently, so I can't just pop down and have a look at one anymore. My nearest dealer now is a good hour's ride away. I think it's up in Oxford. So I've yet to see one of these in the flesh. Lots of people see them in the flesh and are miraculously transformed from saying they didn't like it to they now love it. I find that very hard to believe. I have to say I still find the looks, well, I won't say challenging, I'll say repulsive. But anyway, looks are a subjective thing, aren't they? I'm sure it's a brilliant ride, and I do look forward to having a go on one. It says here anyway, BMW have some big boots to fill, because no matter who you are, there's no denying that the current R1250GS Adventure is seriously special, and I'd agree with that. It's a fantastic bike. Let's be honest, no adventure bike looks drop dead gorgeous, but the R1300GS Adventure isn't the prettiest of the bunch, with its polarising chunky appearance. That's an understatement if ever I heard one. It does look better in the metal, though, thanks to its serious attention to detail. Everybody says this, so I stand to be corrected, but it'll be miraculous if I do think it looks good. It's noticeably better balanced at low speeds than a 269 kilogram machine has any right to be. That 269 kilograms, by the way, is without any of the extra stuff bolted on. And even with a full tank of fuel, low speed manoeuvring and even little things like getting it off the stand is an absolute doddle. Well, that's nice to hear. And that is the great thing about the BMW GSs, isn't it? That boxer engine, nice low centre of gravity, makes them much more easier to live with than some comparable adventure bikes. So yeah, we shall see. Now, what does the verdict on this say? Same but different, says Carl Stevens. Although the GS Adventure is very far removed from its predecessor in terms of its components, the riding experience is similar. Well, that's good news, because it was a great bike before. So, yeah, if the riding experience is the same as the GS 1250 Adventure, then I think I'd probably look for an old stock one of those personally, just because I prefer the looks. But there we go. Some people are claiming to love this. Goodness knows what they're seeing that I'm not, but there we go. If you love it, fill your boots, get yourself a new GSA. I'm sure it's going to fly off the shelves anyway. Right, last story in this first paper. Retro rivalry. Super focused retro superbike or fun GP replica with a sporty edge. Which works best on British roads? And this is, or British B roads, I should say. And this is MCN comparing the Yamaha XSR 900 GP against the Trance Speed Triple 1200 RR. Both bikes that I've ridden extensively, actually. I've borrowed both these bikes for a few weeks each, and I've got to know the bikes over the last year or so. And I have to say, they are both beautiful looking bikes. I love a retro and I love a sports bike. So these two, I do think, are beautiful. They've got that wow factor. If you had them in the garage, you would be looking back at them as you walked away. The problem is, you probably, if you had them in the garage, you might not ride them very often, because I found with both bikes, they were just uncomfortable to ride, like sports bikes are. Okay, the XSR 900 wasn't as extreme as the Triumph by any means. The Triumph you sort of lay over, and I just found even all but the shortest of journeys almost unbearable on that, particularly with my dicky shoulder. I don't know if I've mentioned about that before. And the XSR 900, not quite as bad as I say, but still a little bit, not, well, I think I'd probably rather just have an MT-09 in terms of long-term riding. But both beautiful, beautiful bikes. I wouldn't own one for that reason. Having said that, the Speed Triple 1200, just looking at the pricing here, nearly 18 grand, 17,950 it says here. And the XSR 900, 12,506. So there's no doubt the Yamaha is better value, I think. Let's see what the verdict was here. Go for the fun option, it says here. Trance RR is a full-on sports bike with an old-school fairing attached, and ultimately, this overly serious nature is to its detriment. I would agree with that. The XSR 900 GP manages to remain playful in its outlook, and that makes it a very pleasurable bike to ride. It is nice to ride if you can put up with the riding position. If you're happy to own a hardcore sports bike and like the RR's look, at almost the same price as the Yamaha, the Triumph is incredible value. This is interesting. What's it on about? But despite all the RR's bling, we'd still buy the XSR 900. I'm not sure what they're talking about there, because the prices, as quoted here, as I say, are 12.5 for the Yamaha, nearly 18 for the Trance Speed Triple. So, according to their pricing, the Trance Speed Triple is way more expensive. Either way, I'd still go for the Yamaha out of those two personally. All right, that's the first paper whizzed through. Sorry if I'm going a bit quick, but there is a lot to go through. Right, next up, first story in this second paper. Honda target Enfield. Now, this is an interesting one because, let's face it, the motorcycling market is getting older, more aged, more creaky, like myself. Or indeed, if you're a new rider, you might want something a bit lighter and lower powered to learn your craft on. So when we see new, light, lower powered bikes come into the market, it's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Even better if they look a bit retro. And Honda are now going to bring, apparently, the new GB350S. It sees the Big H muscle in on the air-cooled retro party. Says here, the Japanese firm are set to bring their 348cc air-cooled GB350S retro to the UK for 2025, and it's set to cost just £3,949. What a bargain for a retro Honda. I do like the looks of this thing. When it arrives in Britain, it will go toe-to-toe with Enfield's J-Series 350 single engine. Prices are yet to be announced by Honda, it says here, which is interesting, given it just said it's set to cost £3,949. However, I'll carry on reading. The GBS is powered by a chugging long-stroke 348cc single-cylinder engine producing 20.8 brake horsepower. Torque sits at a modest 21.4 foot-pounds. And it propels a curb weight of 178 kilograms. So it ain't going to win any races, this. Not a powerful bike by any means, but just for fun around the lanes, perfect. Just like things like the Enfield Classic 350 and the other of the J Series powered bikes. Elsewhere, the seat height is 800mm, and the narrow engine structure should keep life manageable, especially attractive to new or shorter pilots. And I would also add to that, older weakling pilots like myself as well. So yeah, look forward to seeing how that does. I think that's going to fly off the shelves too, getting a really competitive segment of the market. This is where all the action is, I think, isn't it? Okay, next up, just what the doctor ordered. Very clever headline, like what you've done there, MCN. So this, in my mind, is potentially a CRF killer. You know the Honda, well, I used to have the Honda CRF 250, became the 300L, which was a great bike, and it was a sort of a entry-level off-roader, if you like. If you just want to do some dirt roads, some basic green laning, and have your first sort of foray into off-roading, it was a fantastic bike. And for the last probably, 5-6 years, maybe longer since that came out, it's pretty much had the UK market to itself, because, well, there just hasn't been anything else road legal that wasn't a hardcore off-roader that you could buy, really. Well, now Suzuki are basically reanimating what was the DR-400, which hasn't been in these shores for ages, with the two new bikes called the DR-Z4S Trailer and the DR-Z4 SM, which is a supermoto version of the bike. Both machines appear almost identical at first glance, barring the obvious difference in wheel size, but the differences go deeper still, with the S featuring longer travel suspension and different electronics, including the ability to fully disengage the ABS at both ends, which is obviously what you need when you're going off-road. You want a bit of slippage. For years, the trail riding community have been crying out for a low-maintenance, lightweight dual sport with a sturdy subframe for carrying luggage, a 6-speed gearbox, and circa 40 brake horsepower. Now Suzuki have joined the fight with a machine that, on paper, looks to tick all the right boxes. Yeah, and if I had a complaint about the CRF, the Honda, it was that maybe it was a little bit low-powered. And I can't remember what the numbers were for that, but that was nearer 20 brake horsepower output. This 40 brake horsepower, this should be properly usable. Very tempted by this. I don't know if I've mentioned, but I've got a dicky shoulder. If it wasn't for that, I'd be very interested to get one of these in the garage. I do miss the CRF. And I just like, as much as anything, I like riding these sort of bikes on the road as well. I think this is going to be an absolute hoot. This is one of the bikes I'm most looking forward to riding next year. So yeah, Suzuki, put me down for a loan on one of those, please. All right, next up. Okay, Austrian Express KTM's 1390 Super Duke GT Sports Tourer sharpens its teeth. Now, before we get into this, of course, there is the sad news last week that KTM have now gone into voluntary administration. So I don't know where that's going to leave them going forward, but certainly if I was looking to buy a new bike, I would probably think twice because of that. Don't have any more details about that story yet. At the time of recording this bike news, I haven't had this week's MCN that comes out today when this video is being published. I'm sure there'll be more detail in there, so I'll report back on the next bike news about what that means for KTM. But certainly I think, if you're in the market for a new bike, possibly you're going to think twice now about KTM, and that's not good news, is it? As much as I'm not a huge KTM fan, it is a big established European brand, and it's very disappointing, almost shocking actually, to see when a company of that stature gets into financial trouble. So that's really bad news this week. That plus all the dealers that are closing, it's not a good time if you're actually, on the selling end of motorcycles, is it? As I said at the opening of Bike News, it's great if you're buying. There's plenty of bikes to choose from and plenty of deals to be done. But it's a tough old market out there to sell in. Margins are low, and there's oversupply in dealers, it seems, which is part of the reason why they're closing. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to this. KTM's 1390 Super Duke GT. Despite the Super Duke GT being their relaxed sports touring option, 2025 sees it gain not only new tech, but also a sportier focus with enhanced performance and a sharper chassis. It's got an updated 1350cc version of the LC8 V-twin engine, and it's got a claimed 187.7 brake horsepower. Nuts. KTM have given the GT a centrally mounted ram air intake, redesigned airbox, and a wider radiator in a fairly substantial facelift. There has been a conscious decision by KTM to move the GT towards the sporty end of the sports touring spectrum. Tech-wise, as well as forward radar adding adaptive cruise control. Cruise control would be good, wouldn't it? And more, the GT has angle responsive electronics, a new tyre pressure monitoring system with a track setting, revised rider modes with a new custom mode, and an 8.8-inch touchscreen TFT touchscreen. Nice one. Okay, so there we go. There, if you are a dedicated KTM fan, you might want to consider this. Or you might just want to wait and see how things are shaking out in KTM's future. What a shame. Right, Superlight V2S. This is very interesting. You remember the new Ducati V2 engine? I think we talked about it in the last bike news. Ducati have now unveiled their first couple of bikes that's going to be in, namely a new Panigale V2 and a new Streetfighter V2. It says here, shortly after taking covers off the new 890cc V2 engine, Ducati have released the first two bikes that it will be powering, the 2025 Panigale and Streetfighter V2, as I just mentioned. Although the new motor offers less power, capacity and torque than the previous generation V2, the big news is a huge weight reduction. I never thought my old Panigale 899 was that heavy, to be honest. But anyway, weight reduction is always good, isn't it? The new Panigale V2S comes in at 17 kilograms lighter, and the Streetfighter V2S 18 kilograms lighter than the outgoing models. Now, that is a significant chunk of weight, isn't it? Not a bike weighing that much. In terms of price, the standard Panigale V2 will set you back 14,995, so expensive, but it's a Ducati. I really am looking forward to riding this. I, for one, I love the Panigale, and I think the original Panigale, I think, is still the best of the bunch in terms of looks. And I don't think this new V2 looks quite as nice as my old 899 did, which was a bit more angry looking. But it's still a pretty looking bike, and I'm looking forward to riding it. If the riding position is more relaxed and the engine is good on the road with more usable mid-range and low-end grunt, then I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. Maybe this is the bike to get me back into sports bikes. Is a bit pricey though, at 15 grand. Anyway, says here, the Streetfighter V2 will be 13,990, so basically a grand less for the Streetfighter, and that bike might make more sense for a rider like me, actually. These are set to arrive in March 2025, so yeah, another two bikes. Really interested to have a go on those. So yeah, Ducati, put me down for those, please. Right, last story in this paper, Asian Fusion. Has the Kove 510X got the right mix of ingredients to beat Honda's NX500 at its own game? Who knows? Chinese bikes always cause a fuss whenever I mention them here on the channel. You've got people that like them and say it's just a repeat of what was happening in the world when Japanese bikes gave British bikes a run for the money. Others that say Chinese bikes are made of toffee. I wouldn't touch them. Human rights, war with Taiwan and all that sort of stuff. I understand all those arguments. I completely get it. But like it or not, Chinese bikes are getting way better. I've ridden a few now, and they are mighty impressive, a mighty impressive price. That might be why we're getting a bit of a squeeze on some of the more established brands as well, because these are coming, and they ain't going anywhere, I tell you. These are absolutely incredible machines. However, in the case of this comparison, let's see what MCN says. Like it or not, as a motorcycle manufacturing nation, China is fast becoming a force to be reckoned with. I completely agree. Affordability only gets you so far. Improved quality of design, construction and riding experience are the next goals. And yeah, I would agree with that. And with names like Kove, which was only formed in 2017, snapping at more established rivals' heels with genuine impressive models. Okay, let's see what the verdict is then on this comparison. This is Jim Moore reporting. He says the Chinese are coming. If the Chinese can become this good this quickly, imagine what their bikes will be like in 5 years' time. Exactly. Imagine what the market will be like in 5 years' time. At the moment, one dealer for the whole UK isn't enough. Not only does the NX500 inspire peace of mind, for now at least, the Japanese also still have the edge on quality and riding experience, even if the purchase price is slightly higher. The Chinese are definitely coming. However, make no mistake about that. So basically, what I was just saying, completely agree. And that Kove does look a beautiful bike. Alrighty, still with me? Paper number 3, 5 stories here to whiz through. First up, BMW. Boss of BMW Motorrad confirms F450GS for 2025 and hints at more 450 models to follow. This is a bike that we talked briefly about earlier on the channel a couple of weeks ago. It looks fantastic. Again, 450cc, light off-roader, if you like. Looks great, looks GSy. But properly off-roady at the same time, if you know what I mean. A lot looks at this. Anyway, it says here, the CEO of BMW Motorrad, Marcus Flash, has confirmed ambitious plans for 2025. We will communicate the details for the upcoming 450GS in 2025, but we'll also disclose 17 new bikes in that year. That's incredible, 17. And we will present back to the future GS earlier in 2025. Not sure what that means. The new 450 appeared as a running concept at the Milan event. This was at EICMA a few weeks ago now, sporting a parallel twin styling heavily influenced by the larger R1300GS, but somehow this looks better. I don't know why. And rolling on 19-inch front and 17-inch rear spoked rims. It's said to produce in the region of 47 brake horsepower, so usable power. The concept bike was also wearing gold upside-down forks, a single front brake disc, preload and rebound adjustable shock, full-colour TFT dash. BMW are the best at those, so if that sort of dash makes it onto this bike, it's going to be great. An old-school conventional ignition key, which I like the sound of. A fruity open Akrapovic pipe, completely the look. It's around 175 kilograms, with 48 horsepower, said the CEO. It looks great, doesn't it? So yeah, another one. Gosh, there's going to be a lot of riding to be done next year on these new bikes. I'm really looking forward to some of these. We can only buy so many bikes though, can't we? Right, next up. Fantic make a home run. Now, remember Fantic make the Caballero, don't they, which is a bike that appealed to me, and it always used a Chinese-sourced engine, and that, I think, was the weak point of the bike before, but they're making some changes. Listen to this. Italian firm Fantic took full advantage of their time at EICMA to launch a range of new machines, including a production-ready Stealth and Imola family, which both feature a new Italian-built 460cc engine. Developed in-house in partnership with Italian engine firm Motori Minarelli, the new MM460 motor has been in the works for the past 3 years and meets the latest Euro 5 Plus emissions regulations. The 460cc engine marks a move away from the use of Chinese motors, with this unit now also found in the Caballero 500 Retro, which was previously powered by the Zongshen-sourced engine. Both new models benefit a full-colour 5-inch TFT dash with Bluetooth connectivity, blah-de-blah, traction control and cornering ABS. So the one thing that I didn't like about the Fantic before, looks like they're going to improve. Yeah, maybe I can get have a go on one of these in the summer as well. I'm sure my friends up at Crazy Horse, which is probably my local dealer for these, will get those in. So maybe I'll have to tap those up for a little ride come some warmer weather. Right, talking about my friends at Crazy Horse, of course, they are also a dealer for Indians, and this is a new Indian bike. It says here, Indian introduced cut price Scout 60 Cruiser Duo for 2025. Always love the sound of a bit of cut price anything. Indian have resurrected their Scout 60 models for 2025, bringing two fresh flavours of the American Cruiser to the global market, the Classic and the Bobber. And these look good, don't they? They don't look like cut price bikes, do they? I think, looking at the two, I think maybe I prefer the looks of the Bobber, but they're both pretty cool, proper Americana, and you can't argue with the Indian name, can you? It says here, at the heart of both variants is a 999cc liquid-cooled 60-degree V-twin, puts out 84 brake horsepower, 64.2 foot-pounds of torque. Clearly, the 60 is not about pushing the performance envelope. Cruisers aren't, of course, but rather than that, they offer easygoing, accessible ride. Priced from $10,995 for the Bobber, rising to $12,995 for the Limited, and $11,695 for the Classic. So, pretty good. So, the most money you're going to spend is 13 grand on a fancy Bobber. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? I like the sound of that. If only I had a bigger garage. In fact, Indians say that as many as 90% of Scout bars are new to the mark, and thanks in part to a low seat height, low weight and low pricing, or lower pricing, than larger models, nearly a quarter of all Scout bars are new to riding. Isn't that interesting? I do like the look of that Bobber in particular. Right, supercharged revolution. Honda reveal all new electrically supercharged V3 engine concept. Now this is quite something, isn't it? An electrically powered blower. I like the sound of this. I like a bit of new tech, me. Honda have revealed an all-new, ultra-efficient, mid-capacity forced induction V3 motor, which could find its way into a production machine as soon as 2026. What they've come up with is a 75-degree water-cooled triple. Ooh, I like a triple as well. Arranged in a V configuration with an electric compressor to provide compressed intake air. Italian Communications Director Constantino Paolacci said, "We are very proud of it, particularly from an engineering point of view. It's important to say that it's a real engine, it's not a mock-up. The engine is already running on the bench. Next year, we could potentially see a full prototype motorcycle with this in. Then the year after, we could see the first production model coming. Honda say bikes with this engine would come equipped with 2 batteries and a beefed-up charging system, with one battery solely responsible for the electric motor used to spin the turbine." This is going to sound amazing, isn't it? That triple sound with a bit of a whistle of a supercharger too. It's going to sound absolutely epic, this. I like this. And maybe 2 batteries might make it a bit weighty, but we should wait and see. 2026 sounds like it's coming. So, some exciting stuff coming from Honda. Honda we know for reliability, don't we? Not non-excitement. So let's see what they come up with for that one. All right, final story in this paper. Retro ruffians. Do these dual-purpose bikes with heritage at their heart cut it in the modern world? Here, MCN are pitting the Moto Guzzi V85 TT, which is actually, it has to be said, a pretty looking bike. I do love the looks of it, although when I rode it, I thought it was a little bit Moto gutless, I think we called it. And the Scrambler 1200X, which looks beautiful. No lack of power with that. I haven't ridden the latest version of it, actually, or maybe I should do that. The Moto Guzzi is actually a little bit more expensive than the Triumph Scrambler. And without having ridden the latest version of the Scrambler, but did ride the previous version, I think the Scrambler's better value, actually. It's a far more modern feeling bike. But I guess it depends what you want. If you just want retro looks but modern ride, then I'll go for the Triumph. If you want retro looks with character and a retro ride, go with the Moto Guzzi. I think the Moto Guzzi probably looks better, maybe. Let's see what the verdict was. Bursting with soul, the Triumph Scrambler 1200X is very much a relaxed sunny day bike to be enjoyed on shorter jaunts. I wonder what it says shorter jaunts. Owners of the Guzzi are more likely to be enjoying the fruits of their ride from further afield. Both are bursting with soul, look good and make you smile, and should you feel brave, they can take on a light gravel trail or two. It doesn't really say that's John R. He doesn't say which he prefers, really. He just says either, take your pick. They give them both 4 out of 5. I don't know, it's a difficult choice, isn't it? Test ride required back-to-back on those, I think. Both lovely bikes, though, and right up my street, a retro scrambler like that. All right, still with me. 2 more papers to go. Another, what's this, 7 stories, I think. And then we'll get on to parish notices, of course. Accessible adventures. So here we go, another KTM. So who knows where this is going to go. But it says here, KTM debut 390 Adventure R and confirms softer road bias alternative for 2025. Actually quite like the look of this one. KTM drew the crowds in the first few days of Motorcycle Live, revealing a host of new for 2025 models for this first time in the UK, including this 390 Adventure R model set to arrive in dealers from February. KTM's product marketing manager for off-road, Dieter Engelbrecht, said the demand is now in the middle class. Interesting. Oh, I see, not middle-class people, in the middle-class bikes. So the LC8C engines are smaller. That's really where the big market is going, and that's what we want to focus on. People want lighter, not so expensive machines, not all that fancy technology. Here, I agree very much so with that. You'll also be getting different specs. This is now the R, and it's got a 21-inch front wheel, but then you'll also get another model with a 19-inch front and 17-inch rear, that's a bit lower, plus different seat configurations. This is all good news, actually. The price is expected to be similar to the 5,699 Duke, with the Adventures designed and developed in Austria before being built in India, thanks to KTM's production partnership with Bahar, I suppose that is. No, it's Bajaj, actually, in India, isn't it? Looks nice. Like the look of that. Well, good luck to KTM. Let's hope we do get to see that come to the market. The Gadget Show, it says here, RSV4S sees electronics revolution to stay ahead of the game. Beautiful looking, this Aprilia RSV4, isn't it? It's a lovely bike. They've done some upgrades. It says here, for 2025, the firm have armed their upgraded RSV4 and RSV4 factory superbikes with a tech and aero package that can trace its roots directly to their MotoGP project. Does look beautiful, this thing. Integrated into the latest generation is an all-new predictive function by using data from the bike's 6-axis IMU and other inputs, including speed, gear, throttle, position, and more. The wheelie traction and yaw control functions of APRC now process what is happening in real time. Oh my goodness, it's far too complicated. So complicated, it's making me nose itch. The V4 engine is now Euro 5 Plus compliant and makes a claim to 217 brake horsepower. Is that enough for you? It has Brembo's latest high pure calipers. The RSV4 now boasts 2 stacked wings on its front fairing to increase downforce and a new style of fairing. The factory gets backlit switchgear, cornering lights, cruise control, welcome addition, and revised graphics on its 5-inch TFT colour screen. And what a lovely machine that is. That is one of my favourite superbikes, I think. Always fancy the look. I like the paint scheme as well. You know the old grey one they did with Aprilia written across the fairing. Even like a 5 or 6 year old one of those is a cracking motorcycle. Again, if only I had space, money and time. Shots fired, it says here, CFMoto send a warning to Superbike competition with its V4 concept. Now look at this, it's got some wicked wings on the front here. This is only a concept, so who knows if this will come to market looking quite like this, but it does look futuristic, doesn't it? Don't know what's going on with the wheels, mind. Chinese brand CFMoto are a growing force in the UK, and not only undercutting rivals on price, but in some cases outperforming them in tests too. Now the Hangzhou operation look to be setting their sights on the large capacity superbike market, using the EICMA trade show in Milan to tease a new 90-degree V4 and a sports bike concept dubbed the V.04 Master of Speed. It certainly looks like a speedy thing. It's almost got a bit of, I don't know, Art Deco about it. I know something about it. It does look nice though. Claimed at 209 brake horsepower, 84 foot-pounds of torque. The engine is claimed to weigh 61.5 kilograms dry, which despite having only 2 more cylinders, is only 7.1 kilograms heavier than that new Ducati V2 we just talked about. The engine was showed alongside a concept model that still appears to be a long way from reality, that's for sure, looking at the wings and the wheels. But I like the idea, I like the direction. Okay, final story in here. Geared up for fun. Is Yamaha's Y-AMT system really better than a conventional setup? This is a great idea. They've gone head-to-head here with the auto-equipped MT-09 versus the manual. If we're saying that we've not actually been asking for auto, and actually the MT-09 is all about fun, do we really want an automated one? Well, let's see what they came up with their verdict here. It's still auto, but it's still sporty, says John Urry. To date, Y-AMT leads the way in delivering an automatic that hasn't lost sight of the fact that two-wheelers need to be fun, intuitive, effortless and pleasingly analogue in the way it operates. Opting for the auto box in no way dampens the MT-09's celebrated fun factor. Well, this is great news. Some riders will always favour the feel of a manual clutch, but if you're used to automatic in your car, I am, I've got a couple of automatics, including an automatic sports car, and I've never wished I had a manual, by the way, you can now have it in your motorcycle and it won't spoil the fun. Y-AMT R9, anyone? Maybe, who knows? So yeah, perhaps I should have a go on one of these. I do like the MT-09, I must say, I don't know if it's going to be that much different to actually spend the time getting hold of and having a ride. What do you think? Are you interested in the Y-AMT? The Yamaha Y-AMT MT-09. If you are, let me know in the comments below. I'll get one in for a little ride and maybe see what I make of it. But John Urry, who I respect, he's a great journo, says it's just as fun as a real bike. It doesn't dampen the sports factor, the fun factor, which is great news because that's what the MT-09 is all about, isn't it? All right, last paper. Quick 3 stories on this one before we get to parish notices. First one here. Kick in the teeth on bus lanes. Oh, excellent. Here we go. Not a good news story, I suspect. The government has rejected a proposal to allow bikers to use all bus lanes by default. Thank you, the government. An online consultation ran from March to July this year. The Department of Transport received 14,000 plus responses to the questions. Actually, let me give you the figures. So they got 14,327 responses. Of these, 14,107 were individual people and 46 from organisations. A majority of 13,687 said they strongly agreed with the statement, if it's safe to do so, motorcycles should be allowed to access bus lanes by default. This compared with just 151 out of that massive figure that disagreed. However, this was their response. At present, the government has no policy to encourage greater use of motorcycles. The Motorcycle Industry Association CEO Tony Campbell said, today's decision is as shocking as it is disappointing. It flies in the face of clear evidence and public support. It's absolutely ridiculous, this, isn't it? So 13,687 people said, yes, let's make a change. And the government came back and said, nah, we're not going to bother. Absolutely rubbish. What is it with governments? Why don't they see motorcycles as a plus, a fix to congestion on roads, particularly in the city? This is absolutely ridiculous, and it is a kick in the teeth. Cannot believe that. So much for new government, say. Right, moving swiftly on. Urban electrification. BMW and Maeving show why electric doesn't need to be dull. Now, what do you make of this? I'm not a fan of electric bikes, full stop, but they do make sense in the urban environment to some degree. And I do like the Maeving. I rode the original Maeving maybe a couple of years ago, and I've got this new one coming in actually over the Christmas period because I did like it. So looking forward to riding it. But they are expensive, $7,495 for what is it, and the BMW that they're comparing it with is even more, $8,500. And these sort of bikes, they don't have a lot of power. They really, if you've ridden just an electric push bike, you get pretty much all of this, and they're not quite as expensive either, and they're lighter. So, I think if I was in that urban environment, I'd probably just get an electric bicycle. But although these look cooler, let's face it, they do look more motorcycly. So let me know what you make of these bikes as an urban device. If you live in the city, would you consider getting one of these over an electric bicycle? Let me know how much time I should put on the new Maeving. I do like the look of it, but yeah, I can't help thinking it's quite expensive when you consider for $7,500 you can actually get a really nice full-on proper ice motorcycle, couldn't you? Let's see what out of interest, let's see what the verdict was with MCN for comparing those two. And this is Nevesy. Bikes like these make you smile, and they do indeed. He says both are smooth, light, nippy, easy to get on with, stylish in their own unique way. The Maeving has the best range of performance, is the longest legged, and has handy removable batteries. Well, and it's cheaper than the BMW as well. Where the BMW is more playful for zipping around town on shorter journeys, neither electric commuter is cheap, but they're nicely made and will make you smile during every ride. So I suppose if money isn't a big factor for you and you do live in town, maybe worth having a look. But I'm yet to be convinced, but I am looking forward to having a go on the new Maeving RM1, which does look pretty flipping cool, it has to be said. Okie dokie then, let's crack on then with a bit of news about what's coming up in the channel. I've gone all high tech, look, and I've actually typed out parish notices this time. That's the thing, isn't it? So first off, thank you so much for all the positive feedback on that new series I'm doing called This Week in the Saddle, Twits. I really enjoy doing that. I don't know if it's sort of putting those clips together just feels a bit more creative. I love doing that. It's really good. So I'm glad that you're pleased with that and you like watching that. There will be more Twits coming. It stands for This Week in the Saddle, but it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I've also got 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and so on. And I say that because the next Twits won't be coming for some time for some logistical reasons. But don't worry, Twits will be back. It has been a success and I really enjoy doing it. So there will be a Twits, but may not be until the new year, actually. Don't forget, by the way, if you are a Twits fan, to send me your Reader's Ride submissions. I've had a few more in. That's great. Send them to me at themissendonflyer@gmail.com. If you can send me them in landscape format, that would be good. The more pictures, the better. The better quality, the better, obviously. And also a few paragraphs about why you like that particular bike, what the history of it is, the story behind it, that sort of thing. It's no good just sending me a picture of your GS and no words. That's unlikely to make the cut. So if you've got something interesting, send them in. And thank you to everybody that's sent them in so far. I'll be getting to those in due course, I'm sure. The other thing I should say, these videos as well, bike news, seem to always do well. I got a load of flack when I may have hinted in a recent one that maybe I was going to stop doing it. Do not worry, I'm not going to stop doing bike news because it's, again, it's one of the unique features of the channel. And again, I quite like doing it. But what I would say is I only ever just scratch the surface of MCN when I go through the paper here. So do consider buying the paper yourself. It's a cracking read. I subscribe, I pay full price, and I'm not, affiliated in any way to MCN. I just, let's face it, it's the best biking newspaper out there, isn't it? So buy yourself a copy. There's far more in it than the stuff that I just pick out here on Bike News. Anyway, coming up on the channel the next month, the next video you'll see on Saturday is the penultimate edition of my Euro tour. Thank you to everybody that's been so kind to watch that series. I really enjoyed making it. Of course, we were touring on the Goldwing. It was fantastic. The comments have been absolutely amazing on that. Lots of you seem to love the sound that the Goldwing makes, me included. And I think it is one of the best tours that we've ever done. Winging it, doing your own thing, not on a planned agenda, was just absolutely brilliant. So penultimate of that coming next on Saturday. Then on the 11th of December, I've got a video on the top 10 bikes that I think you can buy today. So this basically, the premise of this is, if I was to have unlimited cash and unlimited space and I was allowed to buy 10 bikes, what 10 would I get? So you might find that of interest and you might find some surprises in there as well. That's coming up on the 11th. On the 14th, which is the following Saturday, the last episode of the tour video. On the 18th is my first ride of the Royal Enfield Gorilla, a much requested bike. So that's coming up on the 18th. On the 21st, I'm going to do sort of a roundup of the year, actually, because we're getting close to the end of the year, getting close to Christmas. And I'm going to do a video on how much it's cost to run each of my bikes in the year. Now, this is a bit of a first world problem. I'm not complaining that I've got 6 bikes in the garage, 5 of mine, 1 of my missus. It is a bit of a pain having to look after them all with the servicing, MOTing and so on. And of course, if you can't ride them all much, and you can't ride 6 bikes a lot in a year, can you? How much does that all cost, and is it worth it? So that's what that video is all about. And then on the 23rd, hopefully, we'll have the Bikers Grand Christmas special. At the time of filming, we haven't filmed it yet, but at the time I publish this on Wednesday, we'll be out filming it. So hopefully that's coming up on the 23rd. That's Christmas Eve. And then the next Bike News, scheduled for December the 28th. It'll be a much lighter edition than this because things always go a bit quiet over the Christmas period. So that's coming up on the 28th. Plus, there might be the odd extra bonus live stream, that sort of thing, because it's about time we did that. And I bought a couple of these fancy mics, as you can see, so I need to get Mrs. Flyer on here and do a bit of a live stream, I think. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.